Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. Stephen Hawking has died. We take a look at his place in pop culture history. We'll explain why you can't see this video in China. Beyonce and Jay Z use African references all the time, but they're not playing on the continent in their latest tour. Discuss. And yellow cabs in Istanbul want Uber banned, but have they got their passengers' support? Now, at the top of our newsfeed, and probably yours, the renowned British physicist Stephen Hawking has died at the age of 76. He was one of the most distinctive voices, literally, in science and pop culture. Now, we all know Professor Hawkins had a condition, ALS, which confined his body to a wheelchair, but his mind soared. He explained to us how black holes worked while studying the universe from Cambridge. He's a household name like a musician or a footballer and has countless pop culture appearances. Here's a look at some of our faves.
You made an arithmetic mistake on page 2. It was quite a boner.
No, but that can't be right. I don't make arithmetic mistakes.
Are you saying I do?
Oh, no, of course not. It's just, I was thinking, oh gosh golly, I made a boo-boo. And I gave it to Stephen Hawking.
Now, Stephen, all the quantum fluctuations in the universe will not change the cards in your hand. I call. You are bluffing, and you will lose.
Wrong again, Albert.
Phil.
Did you have fun with your robot buddy?
Dad! Oh, Dr. Hawking, we had such a beautiful dream. What went wrong?
Don't feel bad, Lisa. Sometimes the smartest of us can be the most childish.
Even you?
No, not me. Never.
I guess everyone has a different vision for the perfect world.
Wow, Mom, that's very profound.
Hey, you read that off my screen.
Who's up for some beers?
Your theory of a donut-shaped universe is intriguing, Homer. I may have to steal it.
Wow, I can't believe someone I never heard of is hanging out with a guy like me.
All right, it's closing time. Who's paying the tab?
I am.
I didn't say that.
Yes, I did.
Can you say quack quack?
I am a university professor.
Oh, then you should know what ducks say. Right, now we'll have a nice look around and I'll get you home, get your tea on, and if you're very good, CV, you can watch Peppa Pig.
Don't like it.
I thought you loved Peppa Pig. You always said it was an astute critique of contemporary family life in porcine form.
Yeah, I know.
Well, then we'll watch Peppa Pig then.
Piss off.
What do you mean? Piss off?
Well, the astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeted, "His passing has left an intellectual vacuum in his wake, but it's not empty. Think of it as a kind of vacuum energy permeating the fabric of space-time that defies measure." Tyson, there as my producer pointed out, using Hawking's own explanation of black holes as a homage. But it's not just science bros paying their respect. Actual bros, like this guy from Jersey Shore, just show how much Professor Hawking meant to everyone. Well, Dr. Jamie Matthews is an astrophysicist from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver and joins us now live. Dr. Matthews, just how was Professor Hawkins able to remain respected by the science community while making all those appearances?
Well, it's a tough balancing act, but I think when you have the accomplishments, the intellect of someone like Hawking and the track record, then that gives you a lot of license to have fun with it. And I think Hawking had a great sense of humor, and he was happy to indulge in it. And after all, who wouldn't love to have on the resume that they played poker with Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton, even if it was in a Star Trek The Next Generation episode?
It's hilarious, and also being in The Simpsons as we're looking at now. Now, he was able to sort of play up to how he was known, but also was a super serious scientist who made some amazing discoveries for all of us.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, I think the reason why he wanted to be integrated into pop culture, or making appearances on the Big Bang Theory and dissing Sheldon Cooper and so on, was because that was another avenue for him to share ideas. And, you know, even in that Simpsons episode, when he talks about Homer's donut theory of the universe to people doing space-time geometry, a donut is a toroid, and there are possible curvatures of a universe that would be toroidal. So even there was some method to the madness.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess Stephen Hawking started off making science cool, as we've seen with things like Big Bang Theory in the past couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, I think, the message was that scientists are human beings, that, you know, have flaws, have challenges, you know, and, you know, every moment was a bonus. You know, when he was diagnosed with ALS when he was 21, he expected to die at any moment. And he said that he considered, you know, the last 50 years or so to be a bonus, and not just a bonus for him, it was a bonus for all of us.
Absolutely was. Okay, Dr. Matthews, thank you so much for joining us. All right, let's have a look at what else is trending on social media. Now, the actor Claire Foy, who plays Queen Elizabeth in the Netflix series The Crown, was paid less than her co-star Matt Smith, who plays the Duke of Edinburgh. Now, what chance do women have for equal pay if even the Queen of England can't get a fair deal? United Airlines is in trouble after a passenger's dog died on board a flight from Houston to New York. The dog's owner, 11-year-old Sophia, said a flight attendant forced her to put her dog, Papacito, in the overhead cabin. By the time they got to NYC, Papacito was dead. And Donald Trump's been mocked for saying the US needs to create a space force. As you can imagine, his rather impromptu comments to the Marine Corps sparked a stream of space-related tweets and memes. Here's a little look. Now, news conferences in China are often staged affairs with journalists asking carefully vetted questions, but not everyone in the room is in on the act. One journalist has been caught on camera giving one of these as a softball question is tossed. Samantha's in Beijing with a reaction.
Well, chances are you've already seen this video which has set the internet on fire. A Chinese reporter asking a question on the sidelines of China's annual meeting of Parliament, much to the disapproval of a fellow reporter. Now, it's that eye roll that you see there which has sparked a social media storm here. Within minutes of this being broadcast on state-run television, there were memes flying around, even reenactments. So what happened? Well, the lady in the red was asking about the Belt and Road Initiative, a massive project trying to link China with the rest of the world. But it's how she worded the question and how long it took to ask, which didn't go down so well with the lady in the blue. Now, the fact that this went viral drew the ire of the Chinese censors. And now, if you try to search the name of the lady in the blue on Weibo, which is China's answer to Twitter, nothing shows up. Meanwhile, if you try to open an article on WeChat, China's popular messaging app, it's blocked. Now, this just goes to show the nature of press conferences during big political events here in China, where most of the time questions are pre-planned. And that is, of course, to save embarrassment on Beijing's behalf.
Oh, that was quite an eye roll. Now, this week, Beyonce and Jay Z announced a bunch of dates for their On the Run 2 World Tour with this video on social media. Now, these are the visuals, and the eagle-eyed of you will have noticed the likeness of this image, the one you saw of Jay on the bike and Beyonce on the back with the Senegalese film, there it is, Tuki Buki. Well, that's as well as many of Beyonce's references from her album Lemonade are drawn from African culture, which has led to accusations of cultural appropriation. Well, Lindsay Chutel is a journalist who works for Quartz out of South Africa, and she wrote an article examining exactly this point. She joins us now live. Lindsay, good to speak to you. So, I mean, you can't get into the mind of Jay and Bey, but why haven't they announced a date for Africa?
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because, I mean, Beyonce's been borrowing from Africa, not just from the Lemonade album, but the album before that, that hugely popular Girls Around the World songs, where she literally learned Bansula dance. She had the Tufa Tufa dancers out of Mozambique flown over to where she was to have the video shot with her. They danced with her. And we keep seeing these continuous references to Africa, but no tour date whatsoever.
I mean, it is odd, as you say, that they haven't announced one. They may announce one. We don't know if that's going to happen. But the more interesting point is this idea of cultural appropriation. Now, these African Americans taking stuff from Africa. Why is that such an issue?
It's such a tricky one, right? Because there's a definite cultural connection between Africans and African Americans, so much so that they're seen as part of the African community in the diaspora. And so what we're seeing is that, and of course, you know, they've got a massive fan base here. And so because they're black and because they're such a massive fan base, of course, they'll be forgiven for also wanting to hark to that, to, you know, to have a bit of to get hold of some of that African flair. And of course, as we know, Africa seems to be in fashion, not only with Beyonce and Jay Z, but everybody else. But the tricky thing with Jay Z and Beyonce in particular is that it's that very tricky question, is this actually appropriation? Because these are essentially a people who were stolen, albeit 400 years ago, from Africa. And so there's an understanding of why they would, in this particular instance, want to be a part of that particular culture. But then again, at the same time, if they want to be a part of that culture, and if they want to contribute to that culture, and if they're necessarily taking from that culture and taking inspiration, in this case, very directly about, you know, with this particular film poster, are they then paying back to the culture? Are you going to see a concert here? Are they giving back as much as they're taking? And that's always the thing that comes with appropriation. But the thing that you're taking, are you putting back into the culture? And when you've taken from the particular people, in this case, Senegalese filmmaker, are you paying him back? Has he been paid at all? And is it in context? And most of all, like, you know, are you properly paying homage to this film? Did Beyonce and Jay Z actually explain to people where they got this from and said to their people, you should learn more about this film? Or do they just use an image and hope nobody would notice?
And the confounding thing as well, Lindsay, is that if they did announce they were going to play in Joburg or Accra or Dhaka, they would sell out instantly. It would be good business for them. So that's what's so confounding about why they haven't done it.
And that's the thing about the business question around here. So Beyonce performed here as part of Destiny's Child a couple of years ago as part of Nelson Mandela's charity organization for 66664. She wasn't the main headliner there, but there were a series of artists. Then Jay Z was here a couple of years ago as well. He was performing with Rihanna. So the question to ask here is that, well, people argue, well, is there money to be made in Africa? Well, yes, there is. Rihanna performed in Johannesburg to a sold-out stadium about 2 or 3 years ago, as did Coldplay. So there's definitely an audience. And the thing about African audiences is that they're so loyal in that when you're performing in Joburg, you're not necessarily only performing to South Africans, you're performing to people who drive from Zambia, Zimbabwe, from Mozambique, Angola. We've seen it happen over and over again with other big names. And so it's pointing that they'll continue to so, I guess, blatantly honor or appropriate Africa, depending on which side you're of the debate, but then they won't pay back to African fans in the same way. Well,
let's wait and see, Lindsay. Hopefully they will announce some dates. Really good to talk to you, and let's stay in touch. Now let's go around the world for some other top stories you need to know this Wednesday. A Russian has died in London and terrorism police are investigating. Nikolai Glushkov fled Russia 14 years ago and was granted political asylum in the UK in 2010. He was a close friend of a man called Boris Berezovsky, who died in Britain in 2013 in an apparent suicide. Both men are said to have been enemies of President Vladimir Putin. This is a protest calling for greater gun control in the United States. 7,000 pairs of shoes have been placed on the front lawn of the US Capitol building. They represent the average number of children who've been killed in gun violence in the 5 years since the Sandy Hook elementary shooting. Bitcoin's taken another hit, this time from Google. It's banning ads for the cryptocurrency on its search engines and on YouTube, although it hasn't said why. Facebook removed ads promoting Bitcoin back in January. And a diplomat from New Zealand has got in a spot of trouble for tweeting about the possible pairing of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren in the 2020 US election. Caroline Beresford appeals to the Democratic Party to get their you-know-what together or we'll all die. I wonder if this is New Zealand's official policy. Now, traditional taxis have been competing and arguing with the ride-sharing app Uber all over the world, and Istanbul is no exception. But are the yellow cab drivers getting the public support? what do you do with a building that's 28 stories high and getting a bit dated? How about something like this? These pictures show the moment the Capitol Plaza Tower was demolished in Frankfort, Kentucky. State officials said the building had some safety issues and it was costing it too much to maintain. The honour of pushing the button for detonation was auctioned and raised $15,000 for a charity helping foster children. The building comes down and it's all for a good cause. All right, that's all from all of us here at the Newsfeed team. You can reach me 24/7 on Twitter. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. Find us on Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and follow. I'll see you tomorrow.